Hi everybody, I'm going to talk briefly about bikes, the bikes I've owned in the past, a bit of a nostalgic look back, and one or two little stories behind each bike, and some of them I really wish I still had, but that's life, isn't it? It's just the same as cars. But actually looking back, I think, God, I've owned more stuff than I thought. I'd probably be rich if I didn't buy all this stuff. But anyway, it goes back a long way, this, but this is the first bike I ever owned. Well, these are actually pictures dragged off the internet because I don't have pictures of all of them. But here it is, the first bike. It's a Honda C50, or a Cub as they call it. It's one of the step-throughs, which if you put a little screen on, it was a very good commuter bike, and I used to commute to work backwards and forwards on that particular bike. If you hit somebody in those days, you see the number plate on here, it would probably cut them in half with that. But with this bike, because I started off in 1970, you didn't actually need a crash helmet with them, with motorcycles in those days. So I used to just go along without a crash helmet, long hair flowing at the back, amazing. But when the bad weather came and the helmets came into force later on, I think we were glad to have helmets on after that anyway, because the top of your head, you used to put a scarf around your face, but the top of your head used to freeze, and you'd think you'd lost your forehead or something. You couldn't feel it anymore because of the cold. But with that bike, the first day I had it, I actually crashed it into a lamppost, and I damaged all this fender, etc. I wrapped it around a lamppost, but it's a good job it wasn't me wrapped around a lamppost. Okay, after that I got a Honda C90, which was basically exactly the same thing but a bigger engine, but it was in brown. This one was brand new. I got, because I used to be in the Merchant Navy before I was in the Royal Navy, and I got enough money from my first trip just to buy one of those outright in those days. Right, and then I got the C90 from Bill Head's in Preston. People might remember that, and that was a second-hand one though. But after that, I made a departure from Honda and I got one of these. Sorry about the price on there. This is the only picture I could find of this particular bike, you see, but it was in silver, mine. But it had a little cowl at the back here, like a little racing cowl, so it's not exactly the same, but that was a Suzuki 100 there. It was very, very manoeuvrable because you can see the higher bars on here, and that was a two-stroke. I think it's the only two-stroke I ever had, actually. I can still smell it and hear it today. That was quite a good bike, you know. I think I got that one in 71, but moving on from that, what I regard as my first proper bike was this. It was the Honda 175. Again, I think that was from Bill Head's in Preston. That was amazing. That is a 175 twin 4-stroke, and I actually used to commute on this bike. After I passed my test, of course, I passed my test on this bike, but I used to go from Portsmouth up to Preston on weekends when I was in the Navy, and then back down again. I can't believe it now, but I was on the motorway, and that was 257 miles each way. Incredible. I can't do it now. Of all the crashes I've had on bikes, that was the worst one actually. I had 2 in the same day on that bike. It's unbelievable, isn't it? But I was on my way back from Preston going to Portsmouth to the dockyard, and I had this dark visor on. I thought I'd make it in time, but of course it went dark and I had the dark visor on, and I tried taking it off, but I couldn't see where I was going anyway because of the wind. It was tears everywhere, so I put it back on, but that was fatal because I knew there was a sharp bend coming up, and it was a 90-degree bend. I saw it too late, and I panicked, put the brakes on, locked up the bike, I was thrown off it, sliding along my back. Bike following me, the bike flipped over and hit me on the foot. But I thought I broke my toe, but this was on a country road. It was totally pitch black. It was nobody about, maybe one or two cars passed me. I tried to flag them down, but they didn't stop. So I decided to try and see if there's anything wrong with the bike. The headlight, you can see here, that had flipped upwards and was pointing to the sky, so I pointed it downwards and that seemed okay. I felt around the bike, lifted it up and all that. Felt around myself, of course, but I seemed to be alright, but I was shaking a lot. I thought, well, I hope it starts. So I started it and I gingerly drove off again. And the only thing I could feel was that there was a twist in the forks then on the handlebars, which stayed with the bike. However, once I got back to the dockyard a couple of hours later, I once again came off the damn thing because there were tram lines or railway lines in the dockyard at the time, and the bike got stuck in one of those and I just fell off. But I hurt myself more just falling off at about 10 miles an hour than I did coming off at 50 on that bend. But I still didn't break anything. Well, I can remember the guy from one of the ships saying, "Are you alright?" I told him to F off, but by then I was really hacked off. And that was one of the worst days of my motorcycling career. Anyway, moving on. That was a good bike. I like that bike, mind. The next one I got was this one here. Now this is a Honda CB500 twin, CB500T. It was in exactly the same colours as this as well. It's like the previous one, the same colours. They're all basically the same colour, except for that Suzuki 100 I showed you. But anyway, I remember picking this one up from one of the shops in, I think it was Fratton in Portsmouth. And it was a big jump up from the 175 that I had previously, and the wife and I jumped on this, and I opened the throttle, but I wasn't expecting the power there, and I zoomed out into the traffic and nearly hit another car head on that. But after that I was okay. That was a lovely bike. The style is incredible. But what the main thing I didn't like about this was that there was a lot of vibration through the bars. It used to make your hands feel funny after a while. But anyway, that's one of the bikes I wish I still had, mind. We're moving on again. Another jump. That was brand new. This one was brand new as well. This was the Honda 750K7. That was a 4-cylinder. 4-stroke of course, and there's 4x4 pipes, so you can just make that out on the other side. An incredible bike. Pretty heavy, but Japanese engineering at the time was absolutely amazing. It was way ahead of British stuff, and that was actually in 1977. That was very much like the bike I had. I actually put a full fairing on mine, and I resprayed it to match in with the colour of the bike, including stripes, and it matched in so well nobody could tell. It looked really amazing. But you got a lot of weather protection from fairings. After this I started to like fairings a lot more. Now after this I got a Honda 200 just for knocking about on, because I was going to leave the Navy soon, so I sold this because it was on hire purchase. That cost me 1,300 brand new at the time, which was a hell of a lot of money. And I got the Honda 200 in green. I forgot to put that on as a picture, but that was one of the interim bikes I had. Then I got a little black thing, I can't remember what it was now, a 175. Went to Malta and got another Suzuki 100. It was similar to that, but it was a later model. It was an X, a higher bike, which was a bit battered, etc. And I lived in Malta for 2 years. I used to go all over the island on that bike, and a wife and a dog on it as well. Now, after coming back, there was a big gap before I decided to get back into motorcycling again, and I decided to get one of these. It was a CBR 1000F. It was called like the flying fridge because there was so much body paneling, but personally I just loved the style of it. Not so much perhaps this bit here, but front wise, oh, incredible. I just loved the paneling and that, and it was just superb on the road. It was just totally effortless. You know, you could get it up to, well, when they were new, you could get up to 90 miles an hour in first gear. It was just mad. Wonderful bike, very heavy though, that's what I found. And I actually came off it once because my leg couldn't take the weight. That was a pillion. But we just fell over in the car park. It was alright. I scraped one of these side panels here. Anyway, that bike at the time when I bought it, when did I buy that? I think, God, when did I buy it? God, 10 years ago, 12 years ago now, I think, from now. That was already about 18 years old at the time. And then I sold that on. I thought I'm going to give up motorcycling. But then I noticed one of these. I was cleaning windows at someone's house and they said, "Do you want to buy this?" And I said, "Yep." It's a PC, Pacific Coast 800V twin shaft drive. It's the first shaft drive I've ever had. It was the same colour as this exactly. These bikes were very, very good. A lot of paneling again, which I seem to get into. I started to get like quirky stuff, and believe it or not, here at the back is like a boot. It lifts up and you can get 2 full-size helmets and some other bits in there as well, and the seat was extraordinarily comfortable. Couldn't believe it, fantastic. The weather protection was awesome. I really liked that bike, but it cost me 3.5 grand I think, and it was already 10 years old then. It was absolutely mint though. I think it only done 10,000 miles, something like that. Well, 3,000 or something, I can't remember now, but it was superb. And you see these, like in America, these lights were orange cruising lights. They would stay on while you're driving. That was a superb bike. I wish I could still have that one. Now after that, after selling these two, I decided to get back into biking because my mate, something went wrong with his knee, and I managed to get this Kawasaki ZZR 600. I only got it for 300 quid because it was full of stickers and it was quite tatty really. I wish I could have given more, but I only had 300 quid. When I sold it I did make a profit, but it's the only thing I've ever made a profit on, but it wasn't, I didn't sell it to make a profit in the end. I wish I could have had that as well. What I did with this, I did it all up, sprayed the wheels, the forks, all sorts of things. The only trouble with this, it had a cracked top panel here. You can see the nuts. The rest of it was spot on, but this part had been sprayed poorly. It looks better in the pictures than it really was, you know, and that's yours truly. This is taken about 6 years ago. Then I had another bit of a gap motorcycling, but anyway, talking about the bike a bit more, these were one of the fastest 600s of their day, the Kawasaki 600. It would do 150, and my mate, before he sold it to me, he actually did 150 on it. The fastest I've ever been is 130, but I was on the CBR, got up to that speed in just seconds on the motorway. Easy. I thought, well, I'm going to lose my license if I keep going, because I think the CBR would have done about 170 or something like that. Anyway, after I sold that, there was a few years again, a bit of a gap, and then what's happened there? There we go. Then this was taken a couple of years ago only. There's yours truly again with the jacket he got off eBay, and that was only 20 quid, but when it arrived it had no armour in it. But then when I looked into it, I found I could buy it very cheaply, so I bought some armour and slapped that in, and there you go. History. That's a really good jacket. Trying to keep the weight off to fit into it still. But anyway, the bike, you can see here, is a Honda CB650F. That's about 5 years old now. When we got it, it was about 3 years old, but incredible bike. It wasn't actually my choice, because by now my son has got well into motorcycling, and it was his choice really. So I'm not absolutely sure about it, but it's plenty fast enough, plenty good handling, etc. This little screen doesn't come as standard here, but that takes a lot of the wind off, and currently that's the bike we've got at the moment. I haven't been out much on it. Of course, I've had plenty of time lately with this virus going around, but of course you can't go out. The last time I was out on it was about a month ago, and I got the MOT done in Darlington. Incredible bike really. It's got about 80 odd horsepower. It's fast enough for anybody. Good styling. There's a few modifications have been made to this, like the screen, the brake levers, and clutch levers changed. You can't quite see here, but it's got engine protectors if you drop it. It's got tail tidy here as well, and it's got upgraded indicators, but I think they're too small. They don't show up as much. So anyway, there you go. We've still got that one, but if I could choose, it wouldn't be this one, it'd be something else now. As you get older, your tastes change somewhat. But anyway, the jacket matches, doesn't it? That's why I bought it for this. I've got a helmet that matches as well. So there's the Honda racing colours it's in, and can't wait for lockdown to stop and we can get out again. I hadn't appreciated it as much. I'm not actually bored yet, but I tell you what, I wish I could get out on that. So anyway, that's job done for now. So I hope you enjoyed that. That's my bikes. I'm sure you've got a story with your bikes as well. So there you go, job done.